This video is sponsored by Anoa Mother Care.
My name is Gina Woman Katahina. I am a banker and a wife, and I have two daughters, 6 years old and 3 years old. With my first pregnancy, I knew right away. I think the night I conceived, I knew I was pregnant. For some reason, I just felt different after that day. So I knew I was pregnant, but it was in June of 2014, and I decided that since my birthday was in that same month, I was not going to check, even though I knew it was positive. I would wait till my birthday to check. So on my birthday, I went to get a test kit, and I checked and it was positive, like I already knew. So I told my family, and then I went to the hospital for them to confirm it. With my second pregnancy too, I also knew, not right away, but I felt different. But I wasn't sort of ready. So I thought, oh, maybe it's not, maybe I'm just imagining it. So I had started on a certain weight loss program, a very strict diet where I had to eat only fruits. But on the third day, I was just like, no, you can't do this to yourself if you are pregnant. So go take a test and then check. If you are, then you stop. If you are not, you continue. So I went to take a test and I was pregnant. So I called the instructor and I told him, I'm sorry, I can't continue this diet thing. So basically that's how I got to know on both occasions, yeah. With my first pregnancy, when I was supposed to deliver on 17th February 2015. But the thing with that pregnancy anyways was that before I had it, I had a fibroid surgery. So my doctor had told me I had to wait to get pregnant. Unfortunately, I got pregnant 3 months after I had the surgery instead of waiting 6 months. So my doctor had told me that I would be having a C-section because of my previous surgery. I couldn't deliver vaginally. So I was supposed to have the surgery on the 17th of February. Then I went to see my doctor on the 8th of February, which was a Saturday. And then, no, which was, on the 7th of February, which was a Saturday. Then she tells me, I have a strange feeling. I think we should do your surgery on the 10th of February. And I'm like, why? She said, she just goes with these things. So let's just have it on the, she doesn't want me to go into labor or anything. So let's just have it on the 10th. I said, oh, my last minute things. I mean, the last things I have to buy, I haven't bought them. So she said, well, you have today, go and buy it quickly because I'll expect to hear Monday afternoon. So that day we're running all over town, getting the last minute things. And then we got everything ready. So I went to the hospital on the 9th of February in the afternoon. They got me settled in and everything. I had my dinner and then I just lay down and prepared for the night. My doctor told me that I would wake up very early on the 10th. They wanted to have the delivery, the C-section, very early on Saturday morning. On Tuesday morning, sorry. So I decided to sleep early so I could wake up early and have the surgery. With my first baby, when I went in for the surgery, we got prepared from like 5:30 a.m. By 6, I was lying on the bed, and then the doctor started the surgery around 6:25. Within 5 minutes, the baby was out. It was 6:30. I mean, I thought it was very quick. She had pulled the baby out. So here's your baby. And then all of a sudden, my chest started hurting. So I'm like, my chest. Before I realized, I guess I wasn't aware of it, but they had given me an injection because they didn't want me to get all riled up. So I just slept. So I would wake up and I was very drowsy. I would see people standing around, but I couldn't do anything. I couldn't communicate with anybody. I would sleep off. So finally, around 5:30 p.m., I told myself, no, you have to sit up. It's about 11 hours since you gave birth. You haven't done anything. You have to sit up. You have to wake up, see your baby and all that. So I forced myself. I was very drowsy, but I forced myself to get up. Where's my baby? And my husband was there. So he brings the baby. It took me about another 30 minutes before I could be okay. So I sat up and then saw her and held her for the first time. It was a beautiful feeling. But with the second child, I was ready. I was like, there's no way I'm going to miss even a second of this. So when I had the baby, they delivered the baby, I realized, okay, that this chest pain is normal. So let me just go through it. I'm not going to say anything. It will pass. So they delivered the second baby. Are you hurting anywhere? I said, no. Can I see my baby? So they brought the baby to come show me, went to clean the baby up. And then after that, I held my baby. So that was the difference between the two deliveries. Yeah, the first one about almost 12 hours before I held her. With the second one, I said, no way. And with my second pregnancy, funnily enough, when I was pregnant, the reason why I was a bit weird was because when we calculated, because I was going to have a surgery, when we calculated her delivery date, I realized that it was going to be 2 days after my birthday. So, funnily enough, I had gone to church, well, I'll say 9 months before. And, the pastor had said, oh, what do you want? What are you praying for? And I had just sort of said, oh, I wanted to have, my second baby. But it was just funny that basically I delivered like around that time when I had just prayed for that. Because the pastor had said, whatever you're praying for, just believe it and it will manifest. So I had prayed for that. And then, I got pregnant within that month. So when I went and the doctor calculated it, it was 26th June and my birthday is 24th June. I said, the doctor, please, my birthday is on 24th June. Can I deliver on my birthday? And then my doctor said, oh, no problem. It's just 2 days after, so it won't be a problem. So my second child was born on my birthday. So it was a very special occasion for me. People said, don't do it. Well, how can you deliver your birthday? And I said, well, when I deliver, it's just 1 day out of the rest of our lives. The rest of the time we can celebrate our birthdays together. One day that I'm lying here will make a difference for the rest of the time. So yes, my second daughter and I share the same birthday. With both children, what happened was, with the first one, a week after pregnancy, after delivery, I was just sitting around when I started getting a very strange headache. And I thought, oh, I've been getting these migraines since I was a kid. So let me just take my normal migraine medication, lie down for a bit, and then I'll be fine. But as the day wore on, it got worse and worse. It got to a point where I realized, no, I feel like I'm dying. The headache is so bad, I can't think. I'm in so much pain. So I told my mom, she needs to take me to the hospital. My husband was at work at the moment. So my mom rushed me to the hospital only for them to realize that my blood pressure was way up. A normal blood pressure should range anywhere from 115 or 120 to about 75, 80. Mine was hitting 193 over, I think, 110 or something. So my doctor said, no, I'm suffering from postpartum preeclampsia, which is basically high blood pressure in pregnancy. And the doctor told me that most of the time it happens during the pregnancy, normally in the latter stages of the pregnancy. And then usually if it's quite close, they'll take the baby out. Normally when they take the baby out, you're fine. But what I had was a bit rare, which is you have it after, and not even right after, but a week after. So mine was a bit rare. So they started treatment, and in fact, it was quite tough because I actually had like a near-death experience where I could just feel myself slipping away. I mean, whatever medications they were trying, it wasn't working. They had to, give me about 3 times the medication that they would give like a normal patient who has high blood pressure. And they had to combine different kinds of medications because it just wasn't working. One particular night, I remember, the doctor was talking to my husband. I could tell that it was very grave. And so that night, my husband came to the hospital. He spent the night in the hospital. And I remember nobody slept. They were working on me feverishly. And I was just telling God, God, please, I've given birth. You told me that I would have 2 daughters. I've always wished for 2 daughters. So please, this is like my first experience. I have a daughter. Please let me just live so I can experience her. So, and I'd sent messages to my workmates that they should pray for me because it was very serious. So they all started praying, and luckily they worked over me like throughout the night. And by morning, I felt slightly better. They were able to put it under control. And so they gave me medication and everything. And I was on this drip, and then I've forgotten the name of the other one, but that was what was helping keeping it stable. So I stayed about another week in the hospital, and then I was fine to go home. But it was still a bit high, so the doctor gave me medication, and every single day for like 6 weeks I had to take my blood pressure and report it about 3 times a day, and then report it to the hospital so that they could check the levels for me. Unfortunately, during that time, I couldn't breastfeed or anything because the medication was too strong for the baby. So for me, it was quite hard adjusting to having a new baby and all the things I had to do as a mother. I couldn't even sleep with the baby because it would be stress and my blood pressure would go up. So my mother was sleeping with the baby. I couldn't breastfeed her. So I felt like I wasn't a mother. It was almost like there's somebody's child and I'm also somewhere. And I was worried, will the baby remember me? Will the child know how to breastfeed and all that? It was quite tough. And on top of that, she didn't take to formula. Whatever formula we tried, she was having problems with gas. Would give her the medications for gas, different ones. It wasn't working. So it was quite tough. But luckily, around the 11th week after I delivered, then the doctor realized that, okay, my blood pressure was normalizing. I had gotten off the medications little by little towards 1. So finally, she cleared me, and I was supposed to get off everything. But I had to wait like an extra week before I could try to breastfeed. I was like, oh, by this time, this child is almost 3 months old. She will not know how to breastfeed. But luckily, when I tried, she latched on, and I was so happy. I remember I would try. By that time, my breast milk was almost all gone. My doctor was telling me I should pump and then throw away. But it was quite difficult. You're pumping, there's no child to feed, and then you have to throw away. So I was only pumping once a day. So by the time she started breastfeeding, when I express, I only get very, very little. It doesn't satisfy her. So I was supplementing with formula. But because she didn't like the formula, I was determined to breastfeed. So I was pumping about 5-6 times a day just to bring the supply up. And by God's grace, within a month, it came up. So for the rest of the time, I breastfed her exclusively. So that was my first child. After that, it was a very wonderful experience. I breastfed her for about 1 year and 3 months. And it was such a lovely bonding experience. I think, and she was a good baby. She would not cry. She would sleep so I could rest. So I had a wonderful experience with my first child. I thought, in fact, I was thinking that I was probably such a fantastic mother when it came to her because, my child was so well trained. She wouldn't cry. I'll put her in the car seat in the back and she would be fine and everything. So, and then came my second child, and Unfortunately, I went through the same exact experience I had with the first one. I went through the postpartum preeclampsia. But this time around, my doctors were a bit ready. They had a feeling I might go through the same thing. So they were prepared. When I went for my 1 week checkup, my blood pressure was up a bit and my doctor said, we'll detain you. And I said, oh no, let's just wait. If by tomorrow, I haven't had enough sleep last night, so if it's by tomorrow and it's still up, I'll come in. Unfortunately, that night I could even tell my head was pounding the whole night. So by morning I knew I had to go to the hospital. So I got up, went to the hospital, and it was even higher than with my first pregnancy. It was about 200/117. My doctor and I was just crying, screaming, and my doctor said, Gina, I have to be honest with you. If you don't lie down and be quiet, you can get a heart attack or a stroke. So please, you have to lie down because this is how serious it is. So with the pain, I mean, I don't know how to describe that pain. The only way I can describe it is almost like somebody is stabbing you in the head with a knife. And you have to lie down still because too much, if you get too agitated, I mean, you get a stroke or a heart attack. So I had to lie down still and they were working on me. And even the pain medication, they can't give it to you all at once because it's strong medication. Your heart will stop with everything. So they have to give it to you in bits. And it's like, I was just screaming, please give me something. I'll send my doctor, sedate me. I don't want to feel the pain. She's like, with this kind of illness and with everything they're doing, if they give you a medication and you sleep and you even slip away, nobody will realize you are gone. So they can't do that. And with high blood pressure, your body has absorbed so much water. So initially, before they put in a catheter, every 3 minutes, I had to use the washroom. So they brought a bedpan at first. Every 3 minutes, and I would pee about a bucket of water. That's how much water I was peeing. It was crazy. Within 3 minutes, as I need to go again, then they would measure 1,000 millimeters, 2,000 millimeters, and I was like, oh no. So finally, they put in the catheter, and at least that was some pressure off, everybody. And then they gave me the same medication and everything. At least this time, I healed faster than the first time around. And I didn't have to be on the medication that long and all that. But unfortunately, with my second child, she didn't take to the breastfeeding well. So we only did for about 5 months. And with pressures of work, I couldn't express and all that. So after 5 months, our breastfeeding journey ended. I was quite sad. But she loved formula. So it was fine. Funny enough, she's 3.5 and she still likes milk. So every night we mix her a cup of milk and she drinks it. She's good. But yes, but the difference between the two of them, this child from a baby, infancy, was completely different from the first one. She would scream and shout. And I was like, oh, but I'm doing the same exact things I was doing with my first baby. How come this child is not like... And then my mother told me, see, you thought you were the perfect mother, but children are different. And the way you treat one doesn't mean that the second one would also be the same. And I can say truly, they have completely different personalities. My first one is quiet, she's very calm. And the second one is like a wild child. But I love both of them. They are just wonderful. And I think the blend of them, it's a great, difference between them, and I love it. Yeah. So that's how motherhood has been. Yeah. Wonderful. For example, breastfeeding. Nobody told me breastfeeding was painful in the initial stages. And I was like, when I started, even with my first one, my breast milk didn't come till after 4 days after delivery. And my doctor would tell me, we don't want the child to get used to formula, so just put the baby to your breast. The more she suckles, that's what will make the breast milk come. So she would suckle and her gum would be on the nipple and I was getting tears and all that. It was so painful. And my doctor would say, continue breastfeeding, continue trying to breastfeed basically. And it was so painful. I was like, no, I can't do this. Like, why didn't my mother tell me that this is how it is? Why don't people do that, you know? I realized that people don't say all sorts of things happen. For instance, with my second child, 3 weeks before I delivered, I suddenly got a nosebleed. I mean, in fact, I thought I was dying because I almost blacked out. And when I rushed to the hospital, my doctor, told me, actually, it's a symptom of pregnancy. You can get nosebleeds. I was like, hey. So all these strange things, even with my first, pregnancy, I had severe hyperemesis, which is, what people call morning sickness. But I realized it's not morning sickness because it was whole day. And the funny thing was, most people have it maybe first trimester. I was sick the whole 9 months. Even 3 days before I delivered, I threw up. So I was very sick. I couldn't eat. And all these things I didn't know. When I told my mom said, oh, she never experienced it. She only had mild. In fact, she never threw up. So she didn't know what I was talking about. That's why she didn't tell me. So, it was quite difficult. I remember at some point my doctor gave me steroids to stop it. She's like, oh, this will last 6 weeks. Within 24 hours, I was back in the hospital. That's the longest it lasted, 24 hours. So, there's a lot of things that people don't know before. And I think it's important that, as people who've delivered, we can share stories. So at least among my friends who haven't delivered, I try and do that. Let them know. It's a lovely experience, don't get me wrong, but it's difficult. It can be quite difficult because I think with me, I experienced a lot of the extremes that come with pregnancy. And some people have it very easy. I have a friend who has 4 children. Every single pregnancy was very easy, but you can also have it quite difficult. So, I wish there'll be more education on things like painful breastfeeding and, all that. Like I said, how different my children are, with my second one, sometimes I look at her and I say, who is this? Because the first one I'll say is almost exactly like me. She looks like me, she behaves like me, and then the second one is just very independent, very wild, So those are some of the things that surprised me. Also, with the way they can have such expressions, different expressions, they come to you, no matter what you do, they'll come to you, mommy, I love you so much, even if you're angry, they know how to be in tune to your feelings or your emotions. And sometimes I just look at them and I'm like, hey, so are these my children? I gave birth to them and they are so smart and, they know when you're down, they know how to make you happy, and I love the time I look at them and I thank God that, because I always wished for 2 daughters. I grew up with boys around me. I have 2 brothers, and even my extended family, my cousins, most of them are boys. So my wish was to have 2 girls. And I remember when I was pregnant and we went to have the check to see if it was a girl or boy. And I told my husband, in fact, from the day I realized I was pregnant, I started saying she every time. My husband said, be careful. And I said, no. Me, I know what I asked God for. And it's been my whole life. So I know it's a girl. So we went to check and it was a girl. And then with the second one too, I told my husband, I asked for 2 girls. So I know God is giving me 2 girls. And when we went to check too, it was a girl. So it's been such a joy having, those 2 daughters. And every day I think brings a new thing. So for me, I would say that it's a surprise every day. Every day you go through life and, right now they are good. My first child just celebrated her 6th birthday. And I was just looking at them so I delivered 6 years ago, for the first time, And I was just so in awe of everything that God has done for me. I believe that in raising your kids, everybody is different. And even though, yes, you have to conform to certain societal norms, you have to raise your child the way you see fit. I remember when I was growing up, it was all about children are to be seen and not heard. So children could not talk in adults' presence and all that. I don't believe in that, because me, I was a child who always wanted to express her opinion, and I always got in trouble for that because, you talk too much and everything. I think it's important that my children are able to express their opinions, fully whenever they want. But at the same time, I want to teach them about respect. I want to teach them about God. I want to teach them about, good things. But I believe that every person will eventually find their own way in life. It's just about guiding them in the correct way. So you will see sometimes, for instance, if a child is crying too much, why is the child crying? If she wants to cry, sometimes I even believe that let her cry a bit, let her get frustrated. Through it, she'll learn how to control her emotions, So instead of just, shut up and those kind of things, don't talk, I believe that let the child talk. What do you want to say? Okay, if that's how you feel, yes, no, and we move on, So sometimes some people look at me and say, you're spoiling your child. And I said, no. I was the same when I was growing up. I expressed my opinions, and luckily my mom was forward thinking at the time, so she would allow me to do so, and I haven't turned out badly. So I think, as long as you are guiding them, you can, allow them to express their opinions, and they will not be timid, because I realized that a lot of the time when you compare people in Ghana to people elsewhere, our children tend to be quite timid. They are too shy, don't want to express their opinions, and even if they are asked, they shy away from, taking leadership positions and those things. But I think that's important that, you teach your children about confidence and not being afraid of anything. So I always tell my child that, both my children actually, that don't say you can't do it. Even if you feel you can't do it at that time, say I'll try, So I always tell them, don't say, no, I can't. Always say I'll try, or I can do it. When you give yourself that upliftment, basically you'll be able to do it. So my daughter always knows I'm always telling her, be confident, and I always tell yourself, yeah, I'm smart, I can do it, I'm beautiful, and she always says that to herself, especially the older one. The younger one is still coming up, but especially the older one, so she knows that. And I always tell her, when you see something that's difficult, smile at that problem, and it changes everything. Because you realize that when you are faced with something, you frown or you beat yourself down. That's how things will turn out. When you beat yourself down, things don't turn out well. But when you attack every problem with a positive attitude, you are able to finally do it, even if you can't do it initially. So that's what I always tell my children. When it comes to schools, I think with my first child, we've changed. I can't even count how many times we've changed schools, because I was looking for certain specific things. Like I said before, growing up, they sort of try to stifle you when you want to express yourself. So one thing that I wanted was a school where they'll allow my child to be herself. My first child is left-handed. I didn't want a place where they would force her to write with her right hand, where she would be treated like equally, like everybody else. Not only where, if certain people are doing well, they're only focused, those people are focused on, and then those who are maybe struggling aren't. So some of the questions I ask is, do you handle every child like as an individual, like you attend to every child, because if you go to a school and there are too many, they can't focus on the children. So I like small class sizes, where they encourage the child, they focus on the children actually who are struggling, not always only on the ones who are doing very well. So we've changed schools a number of times, because especially for my second child, I realized that the first school she went to, she was completely neglected. She's a kind of person, she loves to be on her own a lot. And so I guess when she went there, instead of them to include her in things, they would just leave her. So you'll see pictures and she was always standing at the back. She was never involved in anything, and I felt no. So, both of them have changed schools a number of times, but actually just after this, when the school started this January, I finally found a school that I think I am happy with. My first child has started. My second child, they wanted to wait about a month, so she'll be starting on Monday next week. But my first child has started and she loves it, and I'm also actually quite happy with the school. So I think with this one, we're here to stay. I believe in taking each day at a time. My first daughter, she's quite mature for her age, and she's told me since she was about 3 years old, I realized that she loved animals, lizards, like everything. We went to the zoo when she was 2.5, and she actually held a python around her shoulders. She loves animals, and she told me since she was 3 that she wants to be a vet. So, I don't know if that will change, but I think that whatever we as parents, my husband and I, need to do to support our children to realize their dreams, to get wherever they want to do, we will. But I'm not going to force them to do, like for instance, people feel, oh, doctor, lawyer is what you should be. Even when they do career day in school, both my daughters have wanted to dress up as chefs. So I said, fine. In fact, if they had said they wanted to be a doctor or a pilot, I would have been like, please, it's not about following what everybody wants to do, So I was glad that they wanted to do that, and they look different. Yeah, so it's just about supporting them no matter what their dreams are. We don't know what the future holds, but I just hope that we'll all be here to see their development and, support them along the way. Yeah. I would say this day and age, times have changed so much since we were growing up. And even though I'm of the opinion that you have to let children express themselves and all that, there are so many external influences nowadays. Way more. When we were growing up, we didn't have that many cartoons. We had one TV station, and now there's so much. There's so much. Technology has improved greatly, and you hear all sorts of things, people reaching your children over the internet. So the challenge has been exposing them, but also keeping them safe. And they're still young, so they haven't even yet been fully exposed to a lot of things. But it's quite scary when you think about all the things that they could potentially be exposed to, especially since they are not with us 24/7. They go to school more hours than they are even awake when they are home. So the challenge has just been trying to regulate everything they are exposed to, even at this young age. Everybody will say, oh, let your children have a tablet and watch as many cartoons as possible. And I'm like, okay, you can watch a little, but learn a little, but then also the learning, you don't want to be too strict. And it's quite, seriously, in this day and age, it's quite strict. Back then, when you're growing up, you don't even get that much TV to watch because they are showing adult education and all those things, which you're not interested in. So even if they say go to bed, you go to bed because really they are not showing anything that's interesting. But now there's so much, so you have to balance the time to sleep, and of course now because of traffic, they are waking up much earlier. There's so much that's going on, and I think it's about finding the right balance for your family and what works. So we'll try. Wherever we have to adjust, we will. Wherever we have to expose them a little to things, we will. Just praying to God for guidance and ensuring they are safe. And then of course, we are in the COVID era now. It's looking like it's here to stay. So taking them to school with masks, and I'm like, why do we have to, worry about all these things with our children now when, we didn't have to do that before? So it's quite a lot. Motherhood is the most rewarding thing I have ever done in my life. I wish every woman could be a mother because, like I said before, no matter what, your children, love you. Even if you are sad, my daughters come and comfort me. It's so rewarding. I'm so happy that, I was able to be a mother, and I just thank God that I've got to experience this, They are wonderful girls, they make me happy. I look at them every time and I'm like, I can't believe that these are mine, And my husband is very, very supportive as a father. There are times when I'm not there, he bathes the children. People say, hey, if you leave your husband with your children, by the time you come back, they'll be missing or something. But in fact, with my husband, he's a complete opposite. I can leave the children with him, not even worry that something is going to happen, because I know he's very hands-on as well. And he's helped me a lot through the raising of these children. We are partners in this. So, having children has been very, very rewarding. One thing that I would say, like I said, it's my wish that everybody would, and it's just a wonderful experience. I would like to say that motherhood is a beautiful experience. It's not an easy one. Nobody should be deceived. It's not an easy one. So learn all you can about it when you're pregnant, and know that every experience is different. So just because somebody went through something doesn't mean that you'll go through. A lot of the time people like to compare notes, or, oh, my daughter was this size and then but yours is small, don't make people feel bad, especially when they've delivered and maybe their baby is not the same as yours. Oh, your baby is too tiny at this age, or my baby was crawling. Let's not do that. Support is very important. So as much as possible, when there's a new mother, if you're a friend or a family member, it's important to give support to new mothers, So that's what I would say. Let's support each other as women.
This video was brought to you by Anoa Mother Care. Great stuff for great kids.